everyone, it's Mary. Today I'll talk about the books that I read in this end of summer, really, because I haven't been reading, well, no, I have been reading in July, but I didn't finish any books in July, so that's why I did not upload a July wrap-up. And then I finished, most of the books I was in the middle of in August, so I just thought I'd name this a end of summer wrap-up. Let's dive into the books. So firstly, I think I'm going to talk about the one I enjoyed the least, which was unfortunately The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead, which I have been buddy reading with my sister. She doesn't have a booktube channel, but as usual, I'm not a good buddy reader because I basically started reading this when my sister was finished already. But just a note for anybody that wants to buddy read something with me. I am not that good with pacing books. Either I read it first, like super quickly, or I'm never getting to it. But anyway, I was a bit sad to... Actually, it's not that I did not enjoy this book. I gave it 3 stars. I did think it was an interesting story, and I didn't mind the writing style too much, but ultimately I just think it was okay, and it was not that amazing as everybody thinks it is. Even my sister really enjoyed this one. So I think a part of the reasoning for me not enjoying this book as much is, first of all, the pacing of it. I was not able to read this book in a very linear sort of way. I would like pick the book up, and then 3 days would pass and I would pick this back up, and what happened was that I was constantly falling asleep on this, which probably I was tired, but also I don't think this one was engaging enough. So it's a bit of both things. I don't think it was that engaging, the writing style. I felt like even though it's a very short book, it took a long time for me, and it's never a good sign when that happens. And also my main problem with this is that I did not really care about any of the characters. I couldn't feel anything basically for them, even though this story is heartbreaking on paper. It is set in the 60s in the US, and this young black boy is wrongly sent to this juvenile sort of reformatory. It's called an academy, the Nickel Academy, and horrible things happen there. They are treated, they're mistreated, they are abused, they endure violence and forced labor and all of that stuff. They're not treated as human beings, basically. The book actually starts with a group of young archaeology students digging graves of these boys, and actually this is inspired by a true story, well, a true academy that really existed. So I would have loved to read maybe a non-fiction about this topic, but I don't think this worked that well for me. So yeah, 3 stars for this one. This didn't go on my thumbnail because I forgot to pick this up, but I'll try to be very brief because this one is not translated. It's an Italian book that I picked up because this is actually a collection of writings by Black Italian women, which is something that I don't see a lot of here in Italy. I don't think we have that much diversity compared to maybe other countries here in Italy, and I was really curious to maybe even find new authors that I could read more of, since there are only short sort of stories. Not really short stories. I don't think the collection worked that well, just because most of the people here, they're not writers per se, so sometimes they're just people that maybe were activists, women that were like activists and stuff, and they would like write something especially for this collection, and you could tell that, you know, writing is not their main thing, and I did not enjoy that much. There were like a couple of authors that were okay, that it was like maybe I could read something else by them, but yeah, overall I did not really enjoy that much these stories. They were interesting, you know, humanly, but as a piece of writing, they were not that great in my opinion. And also some of them are, as it says, some of them are fiction, some of them are not, and I would have loved to know which ones were maybe drawn from personal experience. Well, I think all of them were drawn from personal experience, but you know what I mean. I would have loved to know which one were autobiographical. And ultimately there's only one story, I would say, one short writing that I really enjoyed. I thought it was brilliant, but I couldn't find anything by that author. She's mainly writing poetry, but not really. She's like a slam poet, so I don't think she writes stuff, and that was sad. It was a pity because I really enjoyed her short story. It was about identity and cookies. I'm so sorry that I cannot tell you more than that, and I'm sad that this one is not translated. So yeah, I'm keeping it just because I really love that story. But overall, Then I reread a book that was one of my favorites growing up. I'm slowly rereading all the books that I own that I have loved when I was a child and a teenager. I already said that, but slowly making my way through them and see if I want to actually keep them or not, even though I might have sort of an emotional attachment to them. My question when I approach those books is, do I want my son to read this? Like, is it a good book for him? And if they're not, if the answer is no, then I'm getting rid of them. This one, although I really enjoyed, I didn't give this book 5 stars as I would have if I had rated it when I first read it. I give it 4 stars, and it's an Italian book. It's Tornatrás by Bianca Pitzorno, and again, this one is not translated, so you just briefly, the title of the story is not Italian. It's not an Italian word, and I didn't know what it meant back then, and I also forgot what it meant this time around. And actually, I'm glad that I did not Google it, because it would be like sort of a spoiler to the story. I do think it has its flaws. This book, it approaches a lot of heavy topics like politics and racism especially, and it's very blunt and very straightforward, and I don't think it's a bad thing, but I do think that if the book was written right now, it would approach these topics in a more sort of delicate way, but I still think it was okay. It was good. I do feel like she's a solid children's author, and I want to read more of her books, because growing up I read a lot of them, and I plan to read again basically all of them and see if I still think that she's a good one. But yeah, this one I still enjoyed. Then on to the 5-star reads. I read The Body Never Lies by Alice Miller, and this book was brilliant. I do feel like it has, like, all of her books are sort of on a similar vein. I did review the drama of The Gifted Child in my previous wrap-up, I'm pretty sure, and she's a Swiss author, thanks to Melanie over at Mel's Bookland Adventures, because she corrected me because I thought she was German, but she's from she was from Switzerland, and in my defense I have to say that in none of her books that I own state where she's from, which is crazy. I don't know why is that, but I should have researched a little bit better anyway. Yeah, so she was a psychotherapist, and she stresses particularly on the relationship between the parents and the child, and how especially in the first years of your life, but in general, how the abuse that has been endured by a lot of children really changes you as an adult. And I'm not talking about a specific, you know, traumatic event, but even the constant not feeling listened, not feeling heard, not feeling like you mean something. I don't know how to explain this, but I don't think a lot of people can save themselves in this aspect. Like, a lot of people have had like a hard sort of relationship with their parents, just because we are all like very complex individuals, and what I was really afraid of becoming a parent is to make mistakes, you know, and obviously we all do that. And this book is not just for parents. I think it's for everybody, and I would call this book for personal growth, and I think it's so useful for anyone to heal, because again, what it says is that if you lie to yourself, if you fall into this stigma that we have as a society to just love your parents, or to respect your parents, to at least be grateful to them for what they did, because they did the best they could. You know, that's the main thing that I think it's true for each society, each culture in its different ways. Of course, we're all, you know, in some cultures I think it's more important than in others, but ultimately we as you know, as people have this unspoken rule, which is to love your parents. And if you don't love your parents, you need to correct that. So even if you go to therapy, sometimes the therapist would be like, you need to forgive, and then you can move on and heal, which is something that she doesn't agree on. She says you don't need to forgive anyone for being horrible to you, for doing hurtful things to you. You can move on, but forgiving is not the solution. And if you lie to yourself, if you lie to your body, the body reacts and it gets sick, and you get sick, and you get depressed, and you get anxious, because you're lying to yourself. You're saying, I love this person, when you really don't. But realizing and just stating out loud that you don't love that person because they couldn't give you what you needed when you needed it, and they probably will never give you what you need. It's hard, it's hurtful, but once you know what the wound is like, then you can really heal it. I don't know if I explained this correctly. I hope it was not too abstract, but I really enjoyed this one, and I think a lot of people would benefit from reading this book. And it also helps me as a parent not to, you know, to be very aware of what I do, because I don't want to cause any trauma in my child. And yeah, so this one was great. And on to way less serious stuff. I want to end this video in a happy note. I'm reading a manga. I've read the first, well, actually the first 2 volumes, but I'm just, yeah. And this is, I think I need to preface this manga, because it's a very old one, and it's only my second manga, because the first manga I've ever read, I was 12, and it was just a wrong manga, even the wrong manga to own. I just stumbled across it. I was like, I want to try a manga, and I picked, you know, a random manga, and it was just bad. I mean, I loved it when I was 12, because I loved, you know, the 2 protagonists and how their sort of love story develops, and I really wanted, like, I got all of the series, which was like 14 volumes, and I really wanted to know, you know, how it ended, but it was just the wrong type of manga. You know, it was just like a boy that goes into this house full of girls who throw themselves at him all the time, and they're always like, he's always stumbling on them, like changing, and just, I don't know, it's, yeah, it's targeted to young, horny males, I would say. But I remember liking it just because, you know, I love the two main people in that. But, you know, I'm embarrassed even to own that manga, and I don't want my son to stumble across it. Not because of the drawings, because they're not even that explicit, but because of the message behind it. It's just a stupid manga. Anyway, the second manga that I started reading was because when I was pregnant 2 years ago, I started watching this Japanese TV show, which was my first ever Japanese TV show. And for the life of me, I cannot remember how I started watching it. Nobody had told me to. I don't know how I stumbled on it, and it was You're My Pet. Also, yeah, it's a Japanese drama from 2015, 16, 17, one of the three. Fairly recent, and then I found out that there was a previous TV show from 2003 called also You're My Pet, or Tramps like us. And yeah, and then I found out that there was a manga, and I thought, since I've been rewatching the 2015 version, I just decided that I wanted to read the manga as well. I also watched the previous TV show, so I think this manga has its problems. It could be wrong in so many ways, but I think they did a great job with the newest TV show adaptation. They changed a lot, and well, not a lot, but actually the change is subtle, but it's enough to make it look way different. And I really loved how the characters developed there and how their relationship developed, and it was just a great TV show. I really enjoyed it. The premise, well, the storyline would be that there is this young woman that works she's a journalist, and she gets dumped by her boyfriend, whom she thought she was gonna marry, but he feels inferior to her, and it just dumps her because he's gotten another girl pregnant. So she's a bit, you know, taken aback by this situation, then gets demoted at work because she punches her boss that was trying to, you know, to touch her, and she's a bit down, you know, she's not having a good week, and she comes home and finds in a cardboard box out of her apartment, there is a boy, all, you know, battered and unconscious, and she basically takes him home and starts, and you know, makes him food, and she's like, okay, now that you've eaten, you can go. And he's like, I don't have any place to go, please keep me here. And she's like, okay, I can keep you as long as you become my pet. I know it sounds wrong in so many ways and cringy, but it was just good. It was just good, you know, good. And the manga, yeah, I think it has its problems. It's a weird relationship, I would say, but still, that's what I'm reading, guys. So it's Kimi wa Petto. That's the Japanese name. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, but it's by Yayoi Ogawa, and this is the Italian version just because I couldn't find an English one. It's very old, again, it's from 2000, I think. And I'm slowly making my way through this series. I think I talked too much about this. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed my wrap-up, and I think I will upload a video with what I'm currently reading, because I'm currently reading a lot of books again, and I'll talk to you in my next one. Bye!